Everyone, Nular here, and today I'm in Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross, and this is a little bit different of a video. Normally I don't do discussion videos or anything like guides or anything like that, but I think this topic needs to be addressed because apparently a lot of people like ads. But look, I'm gonna state things first. Seven Deadly Sins is probably one of the best hero collector gacha games I've ever played. The story mode where you have the cinematics and it's not just a 2-3 PNGs with little text going on. It's fully animated in-game scenes. You can even skip just like particular dialogue points to the next part, and like that's really cool because sometimes I'm a faster reader and I don't want to wait till it just ends all the voice acting and all that stuff. So that's really, really good. The gameplay is pretty interesting. It's very unique, and I think it's one of the more like it's a unique take of like a card and turn-based gacha game, which is cool. It makes you think a lot. And I mean, I haven't gotten to end game. I'm still farming and trying to get through story and stuff like that. So far, my gameplay experience has really good. The interface is I think one of the better gacha games experiences because it feels like everything's so streamlined. There's no fodder you have to feed, no unnecessary farm in that perspective. You know where you need to get certain items. They tell you, so it feels like it's very streamlined, like the devs actually play their game, which is shocking because most of them don't. It's a very good experience. Again, to cap that all up, I honestly believe Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross is probably one of the best hero collector gacha games out there. Now, if you don't know anything about me, I'm a whale, sure. Most people do know that. I mainly play Dokkan and Legends, but I played a ton of gacha games, like Arknights, As Your Lane, Black Desert Online Mobile, Destiny Child, all these games. I played them all. I haven't played all the gacha games, but I played enough to have experience with them. And the reason why I'm going to say this is because, or I mention that, is that this is to give you a framework of how I see the business model. Okay. Now, I'm going to put up another point before I dive right into the main topic of this, which is the ad experience. But the main thing is Netmarble. All right, let me give you a history on the games I play with Netmarble and how they operate from my perspective. Okay, so the very first Netmarble game I played was Marvel Future Fight. I played it at the very beginning. It was really fun, but I kind of gave up on it because I was busy. I was in school trying to finish off all my stuff. But here's how Netmarble works, at least with Marvel Future Fight. Everything was cool. It was a lot of fun. They gave a lot of updates. Everything was fairly free to play, and they were very interactive with you. But there came a point where they started introducing uniforms, outfits, however you want to call it. And at first, it really wasn't worth. Like, they were just cosmetic, and you paid in-game currency, the diamonds or gems, whatever, to get it, which is fine because, from my perspective, as long as you can buy them with in-game currency, that means a free-to-play player can farm and then eventually buy them, or save up and then buy the outfits and costumes. What became an issue is that over time, those costumes and outfits eventually started having a very big impact. First, they added stats, and you're like, that's not that big of a deal. Another 5%, 10%. But they started adding leveling features to the stats. So in that game, you go from advanced to all the way to legendary and then mythic, and each level added new stats, and that gave another RNG factor for you to figure out and add customized stuff to your characters. But eventually it also became a way for them to rework old units and give them, one, a stat boost, but two, skill changes. So like costumes eventually became a point where they were necessary upgrades if you wanted to use that character in like current end game content. You know, what's a good example I can give you guys? I recently stopped playing Marvel Future Fight, but like before, for Christmas, there was a Gwenpool update, and Gwenpool got a costume or uniform for the first time in like years, and she was not usable at all until she got the uniform, and it completely changed the way their skills, like iframes, like, you know, I mean, we're talking specific mechanics to Marvel Future Fight, but that's how costumes and all that stuff worked over there. And that was the first time they made it so you had to pay actual money to get the like Christmas holiday themed costume over like a regular costume, where it used to be you could buy it with in-game gems. So that's where I said I'm over this, because this is, even though I'm a whale and I could, you know, afford all that stuff, it to me, the principle of them utilizing that concept means they don't look favorably upon all of their player base, and that's when I said screw it, I'm out. And anyway, so that's the costume part of Marvel Future Fight. Another game I played from Marvel Future Fight was, Netmarble was Knights Chronicle, which was a fantastic turn-based RPG game. It really was. I mean, again, it had all those systems of fodder, and you know, you have to farm those and level those to feed those in, stuff like that. So like, you know, it's the typical kind of thing. But everyone loved that game. Everyone played it. They loved it. But then came Costume Gate, which, as you guessed it, was uniforms and costumes that were introduced for additional stats. And I'm not talking like insignificant stats. I mean like good boosts, like 10-15% boosts. And in the beginning, when they first introduced it, it was all behind a paywall. You had to pay actual money to get that, instead of buying it with in-game currency. Which again, some people were like, well, you could spend money to get in-game currency, but again, if you're free to play or a dolphin or whatever, you can always save up and then buy that later. If you expect something to come, or you have something in reserve, you don't have to shell out just for that. So I dropped Knights Chronicle when that happened, because a good chunk of my friends who were playing it dropped it too because of Costume Gate. Now, since they received the negative feedback from it, they ended up allowing you to buy costumes and uniforms with in-game currency, but the fallout was tremendous at that point. Like, nobody wanted to come back. So that is my experience with Netmarble games, like firsthand. There's obviously other ones I play, like King of Fighters, which I'll explain in a little bit later. But I didn't go too deep with those, so that's a whole other thing. Now, in terms of 7 Deadly Sins and Grand Cross JP, I dabbled in it. When I first got a JP account, let's say a couple months ago, just to play around with it, I thought it was really fun. But the problem was, when I don't speak Japanese, and it's kind of funny because everyone thinks I do, since I play JP Dokkan exclusively. But I wasn't familiar with the IP. Like, I had never seen the anime or read the manga. So the reason why I dropped it was because it felt very story driven, and just skipping that just didn't feel right. Like, it didn't feel like I was getting a lot out of the content. So I just ended up stopped playing JP and said, I'll wait till Global. And by the time Global came out, which as of this recording yesterday, I had seen at least the first 2 seasons of 7 Deadly Sins. I'm working on the 3rd one now. Okay, so just to give you, that was the whole context and preface of what I'm about to say. Hopefully it gives you a little more understanding of the points I'm going to make here. So the very first thing I want to say about this is, like, ads. I have no issue with a game trying to monetize, trying to get their money. I get it. Like, they're trying to. That's the whole point of making a game, is trying to part people away from their money. I understand that, but there are good ways to do it, and there are bad ways to do it. And ads, to me, they don't directly affect you. It's still a bad precedent to set. So I got a lot of backlash on Twitter, and I'm sure this video is going to get that too, but you know what? I figure it's good to explore and have a discussion at least. The first thing everyone keeps telling me is, hey, look, it's free stuff. Why are you complaining? And I say, look, you can implement all the free stuff without the ads. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you have a daily pull, but you have to watch a 30-second ad do, you can still give me the daily pull and in JP and Korean versions, they have a 1 gem daily pull. And they're like, look, you can give me the 1 gem and give me the 1 gem and the option to use a daily pull. It's the same effect, right? But here's the difference. I can hoard that thing and not pull, because the pull rates aren't exactly the greatest thing. 3%. That's decent, but not the best. But if I'm a free-to-play player, I mean, it gives me the option to choose, like, oh, okay, I'll just hoard this and then save this for later, as opposed to, well, I'm going to take 30 seconds out of my time, watch this ad, and then get a free pull, get another R, SR, or get lucky and get an SSR. Like, you can implement the free stuff without the ads. Another example is the SP dungeons, right? You can do an SP dungeon. Once you finish it, it gives you the option to spin a roulette wheel, another RNG thing, to get a random reward. But first, you got to watch an ad. You can just give me like 3 times a day random RNG things once I finish an SP dungeon. Like, you don't have to make me watch an ad to get that. Like, you can just throw it in there. Throwing it in there with the ad gives it a justification, like, oh, well, I'm getting something free, so therefore I have to pay with my time. But you don't have to, like, there's ways around it. Another analogy I can give you is Legends, Dragon Ball Legends, okay? They increase the level cap from, what was it, like 3,000 to 5,000, right? And everyone's like, it's not a big deal. It's a grind, but it's not a big deal, because guess what? You fill up the soul boost, you get extra CC. But as Goresh said, and I completely agree with him, you can just add that extra CC for filling the board into some other aspect of the game without having it be part of the leveling experience. I hope that makes a lot of sense to you guys. So like, to recap that point, like, it's free stuff, but you can always throw that free stuff at us without giving us ads. Okay, so the second point is, hey, look, it's only 3 things so far. It's a daily pull, it's 3 SR chests, and 3 opportunities to get a random thing from an SP dungeons. And my counterpoint is, that's what it is right now. Okay, right now there's only those 3 things. But another Netmarble game which I played, but I didn't play very heavily, was King of Fighters. And I had that same concept too. I said, hey, look, just for 5 ads for a stamina refill, it's not bad. I can deal with that, and it should be fine. And then it was, if you want extra entries and rewards from a daily dungeon, you can watch an ad. And then it was, if you don't want to watch the ad, they gave you a prompt to say, are you really sure you don't want to watch the ad? And like, that's when I ended up quitting, because it just ended up being more and more down the line. So it's like, I mean, I don't know how many people understand this phrasing, but it's, you give them an inch, they take a mile. So if you're okay with just these 3 things, then why not a 4th one? Why not a 5th one? Why not, 7 of them down the line? I mean, it seems hyperbole and alarmist. I understand that, but if you're okay with 3 and you're fine with it, there's no reason for them not to say, why not a 4th one? So just because it's only 3 now doesn't mean it's going to stay 3 the entire time. I could be completely wrong. It could just be these 3 the entire way. But if you look at their track history, the last game before 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross came out was King of Fighters. Then you'll see, yeah, they're going to take whatever you give them and run with it. Okay. And now the third point everyone keeps saying is, like, it's not so bad, it takes 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds away of the game time you have to play. That's my problem with it. Because for me, I have limited time. I mean, and then that's actually a thing for everyone. Time is very limited. That's the most precious thing you have. You can't get back more time. So I can throw money at the game all I want, but if I only have an hour to play, I can only get an hour. And if it's 30 seconds, 7 times, then that's at least 2-3 minutes where I'm not getting the chance to actually play and have fun with it. So that concept of time only is just, you guys gotta understand, like, it breaks my immersion. there's only a limited amount of time I can get in. It's just not worth it. Now, like, there's so many solutions to like how they can do all this stuff with the advertisements, but the way they're implementing it, it seems like not a big deal, and maybe I'm making it bigger out than it should be according to you guys, but that's how it feels to me. And the fourth thing is, like, if you're so annoyed by the ads, just ignore it. Just why complain? Go to JP. All right, so let's talk about JP real quick. I didn't play it at all. Well, I'm gonna say I played it all. I played it for like 2 weeks. I don't know if it's illegal to have ads in games in Japan. I think the only like true gacha law in Japan is Kompu Gacha, which is like you can't have 2 units coming from gachas that fuse together to make a super duper unit, you know? So I don't know why they didn't implement it in Japan then. My perspective on that, I mean, this is just me guessing, but Japan has a very, very competitive gacha market. Like, gachas are part of the way of life over there, okay? But if they implemented that into the game, and like I said, they're taking time away from you actually playing, I would immediately just drop it and play another game where I could have time, you know, to play and have fun. So I think it's because the gacha market over there is super competitive that if Netmarble decided to do that, I think they would see a drop in player base. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of just speaking out of my ass at this point, you know. Okay, so personally, why don't I go to? Why did I drop JP? Why did I wait till global? Like I said in the beginning, I didn't know the IP, didn't know the story. I felt very story driven, and I felt like I was missing out on it because I didn't understand the language. So that's basically why I waited till global. But to be honest, if this is the direction that Netmarble was going to go with the global version, and once I'm so familiar with the mechanics, maybe I'll just drop this and go back to JP and play that instead. Like, that's an option. But as it stands right now, I'm going to stick with global because, one, it's I can understand a good chunk of the story. I mean, granted, I've seen most of it, but at least it's nice to just sit there and watch the scenes play out again. It's like what makes this such a good gacha game, in my opinion, is the story part of it is well done. All right, so those are the 4 main complaints I've heard so far, like why I shouldn't care about ads, and most importantly, like, you're a whale, why does it matter to you? But the thing is, if this is how they treat their free-to-play players, which is a good chunk of their player base, and once they reach a limit where they go 5, 6, 7 ads, whatever it is down the line, then you're going to have a good chunk of your free-to-play player base leave, and that's just not healthy for the game. So it's just like what I did with King of Fighters, and a good chunk of people I know who played King of Fighters who got sick of the ads and they left. Now, again, that's from my experience, and maybe that's only like 10 people out of like 600,000 or whoever's playing consistently, but that's just where I'm looking at this. So the hopeful stuff. Okay, so from the YouTubers and content creators for 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross, I've been told that the JP version, once they have kind of a little bit of backlash or mixed reviews on certain content that they're going to have out there, the Netmarble seems to listen to them and, you know, correct course. And that's cool, because that is the first time that's ever happened with Netmarble from what I remember. Again, speaking from Marvel Future Fight, Cynic Alex, who's another content creator for Marvel Future Fight, one of the reasons I ended up quitting was because he was highlighting how Netmarble would give, they have an early access for the content creators. So they have a patch plan, and they gave these content creators an early beta APK just to like showcase it, you know, early marketing advertisement. And when those content creators would voice concerns and opinions like, hey, some of these skills don't work right, this coloring looks off, like, you know, give them feedback, none of that was listened to. They all fell on deaf ears. And then once the patch hits and then the player base played it and made a huge stinking uproar, that's when they decided to make changes. So if the JP side of Netmarble with 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross listens to them, that's really cool. But from my experience and what I've seen, they don't, it's a mixed bag. So I'm going to be cautiously optimistic with that point. I can't negate it. I can't say that they're right or they're wrong. I'm just gonna say, look, we'll have to wait it out and see. The last hopeful point I have is just maybe this is all there is. Like maybe it's just those 3 SR chests, which apparently are not a big deal, so I can just skip that. Maybe it's just those 3 ads from the SP dungeons and the 1 daily pool, and that's it. They never get worse, and that's it. Well, okay, well maybe, maybe that's a good thing, but I don't know. You look at King of Fighters, and it just kept growing in ads, and it's still there. So, or maybe they go that route. Maybe they just stay with what they have. I have no idea, but that's a possibility, and I'm not gonna say that's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna say that's what could happen. And lastly, it's a little minor thing, but for me, the font is really weird. Like it just seems like there's a lot of empty, wasted space. This is a whole nitpick on my own, nothing related to ads, but it just feels like something's off there. So that's just the one thing that I have a negative gripe about the game. But again, it's a fantastic hero collector RPG, and great animations, great gameplay so far. I mean, we'll see. Personally, I'll see how it is when I reach the end game with PvP and whatnot. But it looks really good. It's just this one thing, which wasn't in the JP and Korean versions, is here, and I'm making a point that, hey, this might not be a good thing. So hopefully that illuminates those points. I want the game to succeed. And I'm just a little wary, given Netmarro's history and my experience with them, that maybe there will be paywalls. Maybe there won't be. Maybe they turned a leaf and things have changed. And let me really be clear what a paywall is. Again, it's anything you have to spend real money to obtain for a clear advantage for a specific period of time. So technically, like I said before, if they offered it just as in-game currency, so gems and diamonds, then it's not really a paywall. You can farm, you can save, and then buy that later. Now, on the flip side of that, if it takes forever to earn that currency to get it, so let's say, it takes 500 gems, and in this game, 500 gems is the equivalent of what is that? 10, 15 multis plus, then that's a paywall. But again, that's another discussion for another day. Like I said, I could be 100% wrong, and I hope things work out, but I'm gonna have to be a little wary on how things are gonna go. First time doing this kind of discussion video. I normally don't want to do this. But I figure this was a good point to talk about, because I think we'll have to wait and see. Again, I love the game. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to play it. But in terms of what the healthy aspect of it, I don't know if ads are the best way to go about. If you guys like this type of discussion video, let me know your thoughts on what it is, how you can improve it. Comment down below. I want good, thoughtful discussions. I don't want any flaming or people, bashing each other. Just look, we're all having fun with the game, and we just want to make it the best it can be to succeed, because it's entertaining and fun. Hopefully everything's good with you guys. Let me know everything else. I'll catch you guys next time.